The Australian rules football was invented more than 130 years ago by T.W or Thomas William Sherrin. It's now an icon of Australian sport, and 4 generations later, his great-grand-nephew Syd still makes the balls by hand at his back shed in Williamstown.
Sport in Australia is like a religion. Australian rules football is like a religion, and the Sherrin football is so much part of the Australian culture. What T.W Sherrin developed in 1879, he'd be extremely proud to think that not only Australian rules football, but the Sherrin football is still an elite part of today's society.
T.W Sherrin was a saddler. He made and repaired leather goods, including footballs, which at the time were rugby balls from England used in Australian rules football. But he decided to alter them.
He thought that the English rugby balls were too pointed because they would roll along the ground, but they were erratic the way they bounced. So his thought was to try a ball and just blunt the end slightly so the ball still had its irregular bounce, but it was a little bit more predictable and it would suit Australian rules football.
Tom gave the newly shaped balls to the Britannia Football Club in Collingwood to trial.
And it spelled out that everyone wanted a T.W Sherrin football. So in 1879, Tom leased the little house next door to the saddlery in number 32 Wellington Street in Collingwood and started his football business.
And that's where the factory remained for almost 100 years, as Tom passed the business on to his nephew, who later passed it on to his son, who was Syd's father.
Magnificent place. You go in there and the smell of the leather, it just permeated your clothes and your hair, your hands. It was just a beautiful place. The factory still exists, and at the moment it's an art gallery for that specialises in Aboriginal artefacts and culture.
Syd's father, who was the president of the Collingwood Football Club from 1963 to 74, sold the Sherrin business to Spalding in 1972. Syd later moved into real estate, but out of love has continued to make the Syd Sherrin balls in his back shed in Williamstown.
It gives me just as much pleasure now to make a football as I did when I first started making footballs when I was 15.
The Sherrin football has become a huge part of Australian culture and is often given as a gift to royalty and other dignitaries.
A lot of radio callers say, instead of talking about a player kicking the ball, they say he's grabbed the Sherrin and kicked the Sherrin through for a goal.
With his commitments in real estate, it can take Syd months to make one Sherrin, which is given as a gift or sold as a souvenir.
Well, I've made a few. It's still the love of my life, apart from my wife.